Hi there! Welcome back to my channel, Gigi the Garden Girl. My name's Bren. I'm an avid home gardener living here in New South Wales, Australia. I am pretty excited because you know what? It's only roughly around 6 weeks until spring. And you know what that means? It's time to start sowing your seeds for those spring summer crops. In today's video, I'm going to go through 5 cold hardy annual crops that if you sow the seeds now, you will be harvesting come roughly around mid to late spring. I'm also going to share with you my tips for growing poppies, more specifically when it comes to getting the seeds to germinate. I have struggled with it over the years, but now I feel like I have figured it out and I do grow them successfully, and I want to share my knowledge with you to help you out in your garden. Let's start off with those 5 cold hardy annual crops that you can sow now. This list is in no particular order, and I did want to mention for any of you new gardeners out there that what I'm about to show you is only a small portion of vegetables, even fruit and flowers that you can start sowing now indoors, whether that be in a little greenhouse or on your windowsill in the kitchen. I have chosen these 5 vegetables because simply they grow really well here in my garden, and I use them quite a lot in my home cooking. So let's kick off with number 1, beetroot. Often called beets, it is a root vegetable most commonly grown for the taproot section. You can also eat its green foliage too. Here's a little fun fact about this edible crop. Did you know that what appears to be an individual seed when you remove them from the seed pack is actually a cluster of seeds? So when you sow one of them, when germination occurs, you will notice that you'll get maybe 3 or 4 little seedlings all popping up together in the one spot. There are a lot of different varieties out there, not just the standard ones that you see at the supermarket. And we are very fortunate here in Australia to have a wide selection of seed companies that provide a really good array of seeds right across the board, whether it be, like we're talking today, vegetables or fruit, flowers, or even herbs too. I will list some of my favourite seed companies below, just in case you're new to gardening here and you don't know where to start. I would go and check them out because it will really get you excited about getting your crops growing. Some of the more unusual varieties of beetroot which I've grown over the years have been white, golden Detroit, and this really lovely Italian heirloom one called, now let's hope I get the pronunciation right, Chioggia beets. I will pop the name up. I'll put the name up for all of these so you can know what I'm saying. Spring onions. In Ireland, that's not what I call them. I think it was green onions or scallions, but over here in Australia, we call them spring onions. Interestingly, I have noticed that it is one crop that a lot of people have differing opinions on when it comes to what part of it to eat. I personally like the white part as well as the green tops, but I know some people prefer either or. When sowing these seeds, I do actually put in a lot more than I need because for some reason, maybe it could be that I'm not keeping the soil moist enough, but I find that the germination rate isn't great. And because I do densely sow them, I do find that I end up with clusters here and there in the little punnet of spring onions. And when I remove them from the little pot, I notice all the roots are all tangled together. But good news, that's not an issue because they are very, very tough. All I do is, just pull them apart. You may break a few little bits of root here or there, but they recover well after a few weeks in the ground. Lettuce. I know I've got quite a few people who watch my channel that are not here in Australia, so just to give you a bit of an update, lettuce is a very, very hot commodity at the moment. We are going through a lettuce shortage, and that is mostly due to the floods which have occurred over the last few months. A lot of the farmers' crops have been wiped out. which is an awful thing to happen to them. So I don't really feel like I have the right to complain too much when I see the prices of lettuce that we do have here in the supermarkets. Now, while the prices come down quite a lot, about 2 or 3 weeks ago, you're talking about $12 for a head of iceberg lettuce. Lettuce is one of those crops that I always recommend to new beginner gardeners because it's really easy to grow from seed. They germinate well. The only thing is, and maybe here in my area and with all the rain, we do tend to get a lot of slugs and snails. So there is a lot of pest pressure on the tiny lettuce seedlings. So what I have to do is I have to make sure every day when it's bright outside, I come and check underneath the punnets or underneath the trays, because you'll often find the slugs and snails tend to hide in those little crevices during the day, and they only come out at night, and that is when they can demolish your seedlings. Bok Choy, it's a type of Chinese cabbage, and if you've been following me along for a while, you know how much I go on about this. I absolutely love bok choy, and that is because we use quite a lot of it in the kitchen, whether it be in stir fries or my favourite dish to make, chicken noodle soup. Similar to lettuce, bok choy is very easy to grow, and it is one of those foods that just seems to be really overpriced in the supermarkets, even pre this flooding. Again, bok choy has another thing in common with lettuce, and that is it's a cut and come again crop. So I have gone over that term before, but to kind of sum it up, cut and come again means where you can go to the bok choy, pick off the outer leaves without removing the whole plant with roots and all. So you just pick off the outer leaves, and what happens is it continues to grow, putting out fresh shoots from this center. Rainbow chard, a wonderful plant to grow in your garden if you have children, and that is because the stems come in an array of colors. They're so fun to pick. You can get your kids to go out there and help you with the harvest, prepping it, getting it ready for dinner. I think it's a good crop to grow if you have fussy kids that aren't really into fruit and vegetables that much. It helps get them more interested and excited about their food. And just like regular chard, also known as silver beet, it is packed full of nutrients. It's really, really good for you. Let me show you now a very quick garden snack that I made, I think it was last year, with this beautiful, colourful crop. When you were little, would you have eaten this? I harvested some rainbow chard from our garden, removed the foliage and chopped the stems into strips. Then I made a simple dipping sauce of Greek yogurt, garlic and smoked paprika. It's now time to start talking about poppies. The ones here in my hand are from a wonderful little seed company called Jardin De Fleur. Okay, I'm probably killing that pronunciation, but I'll put the name up on the screen. I really like this company because they seem to sell a lot of the more unusual, more difficult to source varieties of flowers. Let's go through what I have purchased, and then I will share a few tips on how to successfully germinate poppies. Starting off with this variety called Coral Reef. It has these really large pink blooms. Here's Checkers, which is a large white coloured poppy with a black cross in the centre. And finally this variety called Pink Frills, which has some pale pink petals. There's a bit of alliteration for you, and you can see in the photo it has some maroon stripes on the outside. The first point to make is that poppy seeds are teeny tiny, so when it comes to direct sowing them on the ground, you really want to be careful that you spread them out well, trying to not place them down in big clumps. A little tip that I shared is if you have an old pepper shaker, you can put some poppy seeds in there, and that just helps. If you sprinkle them around, it helps distribute the seeds much better. Poppy seeds need light to germinate, and this is quite important. So after you have placed your poppy seeds on the ground, you just, with your hand, just like firm them down so they have good connection with the soil. But whatever you do, don't place a layer of soil or, you know, seed starting mix over the top. Otherwise you're just going to get really bad germination. You really need them to get that direct light from the sun. Poppy seeds need moisture. So after you've sown the seeds, you really need to keep that soil damp. And you also have to be careful when you're doing this. You have to be careful with what setting you use on your hose. I find using the mist setting is best because it just puts a light layer of water over the top and it won't disrupt the poppy seeds like other settings would do. Well, we have come to the end of this week's garden update. I hope you found this video helpful. Please let me know in the comments if you have any questions. Otherwise, I hope you all have a wonderful week ahead and happy gardening.